Caps Face-Off Live, presented by Geico.
We're 1 hour out from puck drop where the Washington Capitals and Edmonton Oilers go head-to-head, a game that will feature 3 of the top 4 leading point scorers in the entire league. We are in for an exciting night. It's Caps Face-Off Live. Jordan Giorgio, Jason Rogers, and Courtney Lachlan with you. Guys, Caps, Oilers, we are going to see not 1, not 2, but 3 of the top 4 points leaders in the entire NHL, Jason.
And here's something I'm sure everyone saw coming. We're going to see the NHL's top point scorer tonight and Connor McDavid and John Carlson.
You don't really hear that sentence
It's not
too
something
often.
you would expect per se, but it's going to be fun. Capitals fans might feel like they're squinting into a time machine looking at Edmonton, seeing a team that hasn't gotten over the hump but is very, very top-heavy with talent. Going to be a fun contest tonight.
I'm excited. You got 2 generational players on the ice, Alex Ovechkin, Connor McDavid. However, I will say this. I do not want to see the Caps play sloppy like I thought they've played the last 2 games, because Edmonton is too slick and they're too fast. They're going to burn you. So Caps need to be on their A game tonight to get the W.
These guys are going to put on a show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. But when we return, Jacob Vrana had a hot start to the season on the second line, but since joining the third, his production has declined. So what is going on? We'll discuss that next. Plus, Alan May and Craig Lachlan join us for everyone's favorite part of the show, for players only. It's Caps Face-Off Live. Welcome back to Caps Face-Off Live, presented by Geico. The Caps are 5-1 on the road so far this season. They will look to continue this dominance on the road tonight against the Edmonton Oilers, a team who is yet to lose at home this season. It's time for our Caps mailbag, where each and every game day you can submit your questions for us to answer using the MBCS Capitals Twitter account. Jordan Giorgio, Jason Rogers, and Courtney Lachlan with you. Guys, this has not been a Caps team that in years past has had this much success this early on the road. 5-1 on the road this season, in the first time in franchise history. What do you think has been the difference maker, Courtney?
It's been all about their offense. If you look at everything, the offense has been the catalyst to help them have this success. They have been scoring first, which is huge because you want to make sure that you get the lead. They have scored first in 5 of their 6 road teams, and they have the most time leading in any game in the NHL. So they're leading, which is important because you don't want to be playing catch up, especially on the road. They are scoring close to 4 games on the road, or 4 goals on the road, which is pretty amazing. So a lot of goals that they're scoring, and their power play. They lead the NHL in power play goals on the road. So it's just all about their offense. I think you want to see a little bit of defense too, but it's all about their offense that is giving them this much success.
You know, and Courtney, you're exactly right. This is a team that has always played with a little bit of a chip on its shoulder. A team that I think travels very well this season as a result. Everywhere they go, the Capitals are the hot ticket in town right now. The circus comes to town when Ovi comes to town. And so they're getting up for every game. And a thing that I've heard Todd Reirden and Barry Trotz back in the day say before is they get every team's best shot every night because everybody wants to beat the big bad Caps. And so they can't really take that off. And on the road, like you said, they're scoring first, which is enormous. Surprise, surprise, hockey's a sport where sometimes no one scores at all on a certain team. And so if you can get that first one, it's huge. And the Caps have just been coming out, doing what they need to do, getting back on that cushy private jet and coming home. And I think it's a testament to top down. They are being prepared everywhere they go.
I definitely agree with you. Offense is the biggest difference maker, but also this defense in front of Braden Holtby has really stepped up. And a guy named, I don't know, what is his name again? Oh, John Carlson. He leads the entire NHL.
He's pretty good.
In points.
Yeah.
He's been pretty good. All right, you guys, time for our question of the night. Jacob Vrana, my guy.
Your boy.
I know.
Your boy.
What is going on? He started red hot on to the season on the second line with Eller and Oshie, but the production slowly started to decline. We saw it really happen after this Colorado Avalanche team came and just, I don't even know what happened. Reirden started switching a bunch of things around, so Vrana back, and he is on this third line. That was one of the major moves. Why do you think this is happening?
So it is ultimately a decision by Todd Reirden for the time being. And that tweet called him Odd Todd. I prefer the phrase Todd the Bod, but we'll go with that anyway. It is a little bit, I'll stop short of calling it disciplinary, but Vrana's game is not complete right now. And it's a tale as old as time in hockey. If the coach has a little bit of a bone to pick with you, you're riding the bench, you're going down the line. Vrana had some very costly turnovers in the offensive zone where he, instead of getting pucks deep, he was sliding it along the blue line, which led to odd man rushes the other way. And he's a big guy, but he's not playing like a big guy. He put on about 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason. He's built like Captain America or like one of those blow-up Superman Halloween costumes. He's enormous, but his high-flying style has some holes in it. Some of the same criticisms, frankly, that were lobbied against Andre Burakovsky, Alexander Semin, these types, where he's not getting into the dirty areas like you want him to. And that's a tough spot for a player like Vrana to be in. Will he get it going? Probably. And we'll let Courtney talk about that in a second because she's the expert here about all things hockey. But, you know, you're right. This is a decision by Reardon. He is sending a message, but I wouldn't count on it being permanent.
I don't know, Jason, if there's necessarily holes in his game. I think I just really want to see Jacob Vrana compete. He's got to be hard on those pucks. Look, when Jake is at his best, he is flying all over the ice. Yeah. He's doing things away from the puck. He's getting to pucks. He's using one of his biggest assets, which is his skating ability. Yeah. Yes, he's a great goal scorer, but it's his skating. When he's not using his feet and he's not flying around there, that's when I think Jacob Vrana's game is not great. I will say this, however, having Jacob Vrana on the third line, I don't think is a problem. I'm telling you, you look down the rosters of every NHL team, who has a third line of a Vrana, Eller, and Hathaway? Nobody. I think the Caps right now are in a good situation. They have a lot of balance. Will Jake be up on the third line, or the second line? Absolutely. But you want to see that compete. To me, it's more about consistency with Vrana.
And it's kind of tough for Vrana because the guy that took his spot on that second line, Carl Hagelin, does all the things that you're saying Vrana doesn't do. He's a speedy Swede, and he gets into all those areas. He flies around. He's not getting on the score sheet, but hockey's one of those games where most of what you should be watching is happening away from the puck. And Hagelin is doing all of the... He's a Vrana type, but he's getting to those dirty areas. He's gritty. He's mean. And he is sort of doing exactly what Todd Reardon wishes Jacob Vrana were doing right now. So that's it's a good problem to have if you're a Capitals fan. You've got two clones of a super weapon, but you know, Hagelin is the reason Vrana's not on that second line right now.
All right, well, listen, so we all agree that Vrana is a top 6 player.
Yes.
He's an excellent goal scorer. We've seen that firsthand, but when Vrana is not scoring, you start to see the lack of impact in all other areas, right? For example, Alex Ovechkin and TJ Oshie. These guys, when they're not scoring, you see them have that impact on defense. You see them have that aggressiveness on the ice. So Vrana is just not that complete player. Well, he's 23 years old, right?
True.
So my question to you is that, will he become this complete player that Reardon and his team wants him to see on this third line?
And you're absolutely right, Jordan, insofar as Ovechkin and Oshie are both players that I describe their playing style as like a warthog dropped in hot sauce and kicked in the butt. They are just going, they are hitting everything that moves. They compete. You have to believe, if you have any faith in this coaching staff whatsoever, that these are things they can work on. They can tell Jake, look, you're going to be more effective as a goal scorer if they have to respect you as a passer, if they have to respect you as a guy leading the breakout, these sorts of things. So I'm going to say, Todd Reardon knows more about hockey than I do. All of these guys know more about hockey than I do. I trust that they're going to get it figured out and that Vrana is committed enough to his craft and to that money that he's going to get it figured out. He's going to get those parts of his game going.
It's just consistency. Like, I got to disagree with you guys a little bit. I think Vrana has his game. It's just consistency with the young player. And, you know, he's talked a lot about his mental side of the game of, I have to be more mentally in it. He had a not so good playoff performance that I think he wanted to be better at. So it's just for him, I want to see him just have that consistency. And we throw this word around a lot. You've thrown it around, I throw it around. Compete, right?
Yeah.
That's just playing hard every single shift. You need to make an impact every single shift. I think Vrana has the tools. I think he is almost completely developed. Maybe there's a couple more things, but it is that athlete mindset that I am going to give it all every single shift.
Well, hopefully we see more of that tonight, right?
Yes.
All right, well, you guys, listen, it has been a busy week in the district, right? We have Thursday night football, Redskins, Vikings going on. The Nationals have been doing their thing in the World Series out in Houston, something we didn't think we would see from them, right? But the fun continues tonight. We get to watch such an exciting Oilers team with some major playmakers. Connor McDavid, James Neal, and Leon Draisaitl. These guys always put on a show, Jason.
It's going to be so fun. Oh my gosh. These guys are just monsters. Monsters. And also, when was the last time Edmonton won a trade? They won the trade for James Neal with Milan Lucic. Milan Lucic can go and lurk around in Calgary like Frankenstein for a while. Like you said, between Draisaitl and McDavid, who have two of the top scorers in the NHL, can you imagine your second-line center being like one of the best? Edmonton is so deep. The only thing where they're weak, and this is why fans should watch the game tonight, their goalies are 1,000 years old. Their goalies are 31 and 37. They are the crypt keepers. They are made of dust. And so if you like scoring, if you like high-flying hockey tonight, you are going to have some fun business to watch tonight.
Yeah. It's going to be exciting. Look, anytime Connor McDavid is on the ice, like I'm literally
Yes.
sitting on the edge of my seat because he is by far the fastest
Yes.
player in the NHL.
He's
with
so dirty.
And without the puck, which
Yep.
is amazing because once you get that puck, players start to slow down. It should be a good game. I think the Oilers have kind of taken this identity from Barry Trotz a little bit to play a little bit more defense first.
Yeah.
They attack, almost they wait a little bit and then they attack. So it might be a little different, but Connor
We're
McDavid,
in for a show.
look out.
The
that's for
McDavid show, baby.
Don't go anywhere. When we return, we're going to be talking about dynasties. Of course, the great one. Wayne Gretzky contributed to some of the best teams there ever were with the Caps in Edmonton tonight. We've got to talk about if the 1980s Oilers team was the best dynasty ever. Welcome back to Caps Faceoff Live. We're 2 games into the World Series where the Washington Nationals are up 2-0 against the Houston Astros. Yep, you heard that correctly. All of DC showing their support, including the Caps in our Caps crew. Up in Edmonton, they went all out to show their support. Watch this.
Instead of the baby shark,
Which I love, by the
shark. That's great.
I love that.
That's great. Except we have something that's almost as good.
You can't.
We're a
There's
long way
nothing
from
better
home.
than that.
It's the Joe B. Shark.
What?
Joe B. Shark. What do you think? You gotta feel a little bit. Here, walk with me. Joe B. Shark.
Baby shark, do-do-do-do-do, baby shark, do-do-do-do-do, baby shark. Mommy shark, do-do-do-do-do, mommy shark, do-do-do-do-do, mommy shark, do-do-do-do-do, mommy shark.
Daddy shark, do-do-do-do-do, daddy shark, do-do-do-do-do, daddy shark, do-do-do-do-do, daddy shark.
Grandma shark, do-do-do-do-do, grandma shark, do-do-do-do.
All right, let's go Nationals. Stay in the fight. So
Let's
proud
go.
of you
Come
guys.
on,
We're
keep
gonna be
it
cheering
going.
on from
Let's go,
afar.
Nats. Come
I'm
on.
hungry. You want to get some food?
Yeah, I was thinking, what about sushi?
Does that sound good? Sushi sounds perfect.
That's it.
Let's go.
It's now time for Players Only. Alan May and Craig Laughlin are joining me now. Guys, we'll be talking the greatest dynasties in hockey, but before we get into all that, you must share, Craig, how did you manage to get Joe B in a shark suit? Share.
Jordan, it's pretty simple. You just strong arm them. I mean, I'm just dancing here. We get one of these, and we just make sure that it fits Joe B to a T. It just came together very quickly, and the key thing is don't ever tell them what we're going to do, or him in particular, until it's time to do the show. Here he is, see? There's the baby shark. So we had a ton of fun, and he agreed to it. He's a great trooper, and we just loved it yesterday. We had a ton of fun here in Edmonton.
Perfect time, right in time for Halloween, right? Well, you guys, we're talking dynasties on this Players Only, and with the Caps being in Edmonton tonight, we've got to talk about if the 1980s Oilers team were the best dynasty ever. Alan, what do you think?
Well, I wish I could say that. I grew up there and watched it. I was actually on one of the teams in their run, but you know what? They went two wins, lost 1 year, bowed out early, 2 more, bowed out early, another year after Gretzky. But I look back in the 1970s, the Montreal Canadiens were one of those beautiful teams to ever grace the ice. Guy Lafleur, Steve Shutt, Larry Robinson, Guy Lapointe, Ken Dryden. That's just to name a few, but you could go down. I could actually name every player that was on those teams. And that team was one of the most high-flying ever. The Oilers were amazing. I look at the New York Islanders after they took over from the Montreal Canadiens 4 wins, and they were probably some of the most complete teams before that Edmonton run. And we've not really had anything like it since a few years of Detroit, the Russian Revolution, some New Jersey as they killed the flow of hockey back in the 90s. But I look back, and I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens of all the teams in my childhood and throughout my pro career as the team that was probably the greatest dynasty ever, Locker.
Yeah, it's never going to happen again, I don't believe, the way the game's played these days. And you hit on 3 key teams there. I think the Islanders, the Oilers, and obviously the Montreal Canadiens. In the Hall of Fame, they have enshrined 9 teams that are dynasties, and only 9. And those teams that you mentioned are at the top. I go with the Montreal Canadiens too, because what they did from like 70 to 80, they won 6 Stanley Cups. They have 10 guys enshrined in the Hockey Hall of Fame. It was a team of the ages, so-called flying Frenchmen. No one could catch them. They were offensive. They would burn you in goal with Ken Dryden. All the great players we love to watch, Albie, that we could watch every Saturday night. It was either the Leafs or the Montreal Canadiens, and you were glued to the TV. I would go with the 70s, too. I think Edmonton, though, would be close because they really had that run that's really not been duplicated. They came in right after the Islanders, and they just ran through the league to about 1990. They had star players. They didn't have 10 Hall of Famers, but they sure had a boatload of Hall of Famers. There will never be another dynasty. I think the most any team will ever win is 2 in a row. I just don't see anybody winning 5, 6 in a 10-year span. No way. So that's my pick also, buddy.
Yeah, and one of the things that goes to show how important those Montreal Canadiens teams were, the Oilers' first teams had guys like Pat Hughes, who was a Montreal Canadiens farmhand, Dave Hunter, who was a Montreal Canadiens farmhand, others, Riley Cote, players that played there in the Nova Scotia system. And you know all about the development that they had back then. They used to lock and own these players. They'd bring them. So the Oilers knew you get leadership and you bring Montreal Canadiens players because they know the cycle of winning, what it takes. I look at the Oilers teams, they had the greatest individual effort seasons ever. Gretzky, 92 goals, a couple hundred points multiple times. Jari Kurri, a 70-plus goal scorer. One year when I got traded there was a 70-goal scorer, a 60-goal scorer, a 50-goal scorer, and a 300 penalty minute right winger all in front of me. So the team was next to impossible to make. I look at just so many great teams, but I really like the makeup of the Islanders teams. But there's no way you can do that again the way they were able to do it, because you have to lose your players. Free agency comes earlier now. You don't get to own them forever. So some of the greatest teams, and there's not enough video, and we don't have enough time because we're watching so many games now. But those Montreal Canadiens, I think I've told you before, multiple times before, Locker. In 1979, November of 1979, the very first time the Montreal Canadiens came to Edmonton as members of the Oilers being in the NHL, I was born and bred to hate the Montreal Canadiens. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen on ice. The red jerseys, back when the visitors wore red.
Fantastic.
Larry Robinson and Guy Lafleur's flapping jerseys. It was absolutely phenomenal. And you were lucky enough to get to play with most of those guys.
Yeah, I was fortunate. My first goal assisted Larry Robinson and Guy Lafleur back in '82, so that was exciting. And to have it on my wall at home, it's one of my deepest keepsakes that I have. But I think you look back there too. You mentioned all these players. Notice the dynasties and what they had. They had 5 or 6 guys. Even the Islanders, they had Potvin, Nystrom, Gillies, they had Trottier, they had Bossy, all these guys, and Billy Smith, of course, in the net. I look back and, you named all the Edmonton Oilers guys with 50 or more goals. It was funny because you mentioned that, because Joe and I were talking today at lunch, and he gave me this little nugget, and we think it's true. The Caps have as many 50-goal scorers as the Edmonton Oilers do. And that's hard to believe considering the heyday here in Edmonton when they had those 50-goal gunners. The Caps have just as many in franchise history, which is pretty cool. But definitely dynasties built on those type of star players, revolutionary players, guys that do things like Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin. That's what can make up a dynasty. But I don't think you can do it now because the players leave, they sign big deals, they're UFAs. Money's such a big deal in this day and age that there'll never be him again.
Well, when you look at a guy like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, these two players tonight could play in any one of those eras the way they play the game. And when you look at Connor, he is the fastest, most exciting player in the game right now offensively, the things he does with the puck. But that team's all top heavy. It's McDavid and Draisaitl and their power play right now. Locker, tell us what we're going to see out of Connor McDavid tonight.
Well, Connor McDavid, the one thing they're going to do, he hasn't scored in a couple of games. He's went pointless, which he hasn't done, I think, just the second time in his career. The thing about Connor McDavid, what the Caps are going to try to do tonight is like the old-fashioned days. Albie, when Lafleur was coming down the wing, you try to take him before he got to center, sort of try some interference, try to prevent him from getting that head of steam. Connor McDavid is fast because he crosses over every 4 or 5 strides, unlike any player in the league. Plus, he can turn on a dime, and he'll blow past you. For the Caps to beat this guy tonight and keep him off the board, they got to get to him from the top of the circle to the center stripe and prevent him legally, without taking penalties, to be the explosive guy. I agree with you, Alman. I think that their bottom 6 struggles. They're not going to score. They got 7 forwards in the lineup that have not scored yet this season. The Caps will beat this Oiler team with depth tonight.
It's going to be a fun one. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hey, Craig, Game 3 tomorrow, you're wearing the shark suit, all right? And you'll be next. Thank you guys for joining us. It's now time for our score prediction presented by Volkswagen. But guys, before we get into that, I need quick keys to the game, score prediction, and players to watch.
I'm going to say whether it's Koskinen or Mike Smith, the Caps have to make those old goalies' bones work and hurt pound shots. I'm going to say 6-2 Capitals.
Whoa.
Ovi
All
getting
right,
a pair.
love to hear it. Okay.
All right, they got to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl. That's my biggest key. As you heard, McDavid is a little cold. I'm going to go 4-3 Edmonton.
Oh, get out of here, Courtney. Get out of here.
3-2 TJ Oshie for me. Puck drop is just about 30 minutes out as the Caps look to continue their dominance on the road, this time in Edmonton against the Oilers. Don't go anywhere because Caps pregame live is coming right up. For Jason, Courtney, I am Jordan. We'll see you after the game right here, NBC Sports Washington.